Okay, good morning. So very quickly, I want to share with you what I'm doing as far as trying to stop the 5-on-5, which is the code word basically for repealing Correctional Service Article 7-501B in the state of Maryland. And I'm getting the bill drafted, seeking bipartisan sponsorship, and we'll seek to have it put in Annapolis for the 2018 session, and we'll be up there. Here's the argument briefly with the points that need to be done. In late 2006, there was a man, Lawrence Banks, that was convicted of 2 horrific murders before that, then convicted of 2 more murders in Laurel, that of a 22-year-old woman, Lisa Brown, and her 9-month-old daughter. It sparked a public outrage, and obviously the horrific crime. It spawned Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, respectfully, Roberta Roper and attorney Russell Butler, and they looked into the bottom of the crime that was, how the man was released and everything, and after going over the logistics of his sentence and conviction, they realized that he had been let out in a loophole. And by loophole, I'll let you hear Miss Roper's voice, what happened. This is her reading an introduction of Senate Bill 654 that amended Correctional Service Article 7-501 to add B.
Move favorable. So we hear from Roberta Roper.
Good afternoon, Chairman Frosch and members of the committee. I'm Roberta Roper, founder of the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center and chair of its board of directors, speaking on behalf of Senate Bill 654, Violent Crimes Conditional Release Under Mandatory Supervision and Limitation. This is one of our 2009 priorities. Its purpose is to close a loophole in current release practices. When approved, we believe this bill will help to restore a greater measure of truth in sentencing by requiring that an inmate convicted of a violent crime is not eligible for conditional release until the inmate becomes eligible for parole. You might ask how someone serving a sentence for a violent crime is mandatorily released. Well, under Maryland law, inmates convicted of violent crimes must serve 50% of their sentence before becoming eligible for parole consideration. Also under Maryland law, inmates may earn as many as 20 days of diminution credits per month granted for good behavior or involvement in special programs. Under the system, it can happen that a violent offender must be released on mandatory supervision before and not after serving 50% of his sentence. While we agree that it makes sense to reward inmates for good behavior, one case that's in your attachment in the testimony reflects the devastating consequences for one 22-year-old woman and her 9-month-old baby when Lawrence Banks shot them to death in Laurel in late 2006. Lawrence Banks had been incarcerated for murdering 2 other people, yet he earned sufficient diminution credits to be released on mandatory supervision, not parole. Senate Bill 654 closes that loophole that enabled Lawrence Banks to be released before his first parole eligibility date. Public trust and confidence are eroded when our justice system fails to provide truthful sentences. Everyone, the victim, the inmate, the court, the public, should know what the court sentence is and that the sentence will be carried out in a truthful manner. Therefore, we ask this committee's favorable report for Senate Bill 654. Thank you.
Okay, that was Roberta Roper. Next is Russell Butler. I just want you to hear the intent behind the Senate Bill 654 before I present my argument
Russell Butler,
with anything.
On behalf of the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center. I don't want to repeat anything that's been said. I would like to talk a little bit about parole and diminution credits. Parole is supposed to be a discretionary release for those inmates who do well when they're incarcerated. We tried to make that somewhat truthful. Judges are, when they sentence somebody for a violent crime, are supposed to say that they will have to serve at least 50% of the time before they're being eligible for parole. Diminution credits apply to allow an inmate who is not paroled to be later subsequently released. There's an inconsistency when inmates, and the fiscal note says 3 a year, the Banks case is clearly one, where somebody gets out on diminution credits before even parole eligibility. Mrs. Roper talked about the bank case. I'd like to talk about the two other attachments. Exhibit 3 to our testimony is a chart that shows what a 10-year sentence should be with diminution credits. So 10-year sentence, they should be eligible for parole. The earliest would be 5 years. However, if you earn 20 diminution credits per month, and assuming there are 30 days in a month that you're earning 50, you should basically be eligible for release after serving 6 years. I do not know how it's mathematically possible. It apparently is because people are getting released before parole eligibility, but it just doesn't make any sense. What the court says to the victims, to the defendants, to the community should be truthful, that they have to serve at least 50% before they're released on either parole or mandatory supervision. I agree with Mrs. Roper. It's a minimal fiscal cost. Let's make it more truthful to the public. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on the bill or the testimony or the attachments.
All right, there don't seem to be any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 654. We'll turn to Senator App.
Okay, so that's the gist of that, and my next video will describe what went wrong, how the intent was misinterpreted, misapplied, and I'll even note the question that Mr. Russell Butler didn't know how it was mathematically possible for that type of release to occur. It's a rare legal phenomenon that does occur, and I'll explain briefly in my next video. Thank you.